the time of enslavement, darkness, and violence, they risked their young lives. On their shoulders, they were carrying Poland.
Moje nazwisko Waldemar Kruszyński.
My name is Waldemar Kruszyński. I was born in 1928. I am a resident of Warsaw, born and raised just like my father and his father before him. My father upheld the patriotic tradition and kept the memory of his ancestors alive. He passed this on to us, his children. In addition, he himself participated in the 1905 PPS battles in Warsaw. He owned a gun until 1939. We were raised in the spirit of patriotism. In 1939, war broke out. My brother was not there. He was in the army. Our mother was forced to quickly sell off some valuables. In November, my brother returned from Russian captivity. They wanted to execute him for being a member of the Air Force. He escaped, returned home, and, as I understand, made contact with his friends. The conspiracy began. I mean the Defenders of Poland Corps, to which my brother belonged. They often asked me to go somewhere or carry something. As a young boy, I was inconspicuous, as I was not very tall.
Ja jestem niezbyt wysokiego wzrostu. 13 stycznia 1941 roku.
On January the 13th, 1941, at 6 o'clock in the morning, we were awakened by a rumbling at the windows as we lived on the ground floor. Seconds after, the Gestapo rushed in. My brother was first taken to Warszawiak and then sent to Auschwitz. Later, I think, in 1943, to Buchenwald. After the war, in 1947, he returned. The moment of my brother's arrest probably had some kind of decisive impact on my entire future, because I was in the Boy Scouts. At the beginning in January, there was a breach at the scout organization to which I belonged. Waldek, it would be better if you disappeared for your safety. We'll get you a contact in Lublin. This is how it survived until July the 22nd, 1944. This was the day when Russians arrived in their truck. They wanted to know if we knew where the Germans were. It was a day of liberation for us. We were ecstatic. Liberation from German occupation had finally arrived, brought by these new friends. And then the arrests began. The NKVD started picking us off one by one. We all hid our weapons and waited to see what would happen next. August the 1st was the day the Warsaw Uprising started. The Podlasie division of the Polish Home Army will move to support the liberation of Warsaw. After 2 or 3 days, 8 of Berling's men came to us. They were officers from the forming army in Lublin under General Berling, with a mission to convince everyone to join the First Army. And indeed, I remember it as we stood in such a closed quadrangle. This was not a lucky time for them. As soon as Major Miller's driver returned, he told us the UB had detained the major. What followed was, in my eyes, just a normal reaction of the officers. They drew their weapons and approached these Berling's men. They disarmed them, took away their belts, and told them to go back to where they came from. The order was that all troops return to their positions. The Russians tried to surround us. We broke out of the encirclement. On the run, we got to some village.
Próbowali nas otoczyć. Wyrwaliśmy się z tego krążenia, gdzieś wpadliśmy do jakiejś wsi. W 1944 roku, po wyzwoleniu już Warszawy.
In 1944, after Warsaw had already been liberated, my sister notified me that there was a course open in Łódź for future employees of the administration of the recovered territories. That's what we called it at the time. All the participants of this course have already gone to take up their positions, as administration and various offices have already begun to take shape. I was told that there would be a transport of propaganda materials in 2 or 3 days. When I came to Szczecin, when it was open and the Russians allowed it, I saw the city empty and devastated. All the wealth was being transferred to Russia. I arrived on a truck. In the morning, as I woke up, it turned out that I was in Stargard Szczeciński, and my sister had gotten a house for herself. One apartment was on the ground floor, and another was on the first floor. And the period of my life in Stargard Szczeciński began. There were weapons hidden in the attic, FNK and Walter pistols, 2 double-barreled shotguns, 12 and 16, and Schmeisser. I once went to the center and saw a Boy Scout troop headquarters. So, as a scout, I applied and started participating. Soon after, on September the 2nd, the middle school opened. Here I am in the classroom on the first day, and there I see one seat vacant in the first row. I ask the boy next to it if the seat is free, so I can sit down. Yes, take a seat, he tells me. On his chair, there was a bag looking like an officer's bag. It was called sumka, and as I was passing behind him, I saw a parabellum pistol grip. When I saw this parabellum, I unbuttoned my jacket and showed him the FNK I had on me. And from that point, we had an understanding. "Where are you from?" he asked. Then added, "I am from the Lublin region." "And I'm from Polesia," I replied. And it turned out that it was Czesław Hołub, who later became the commander of our unit. After all, we were both raised before the war. I remember patriotism. I remember having all those conversations, those academies and schools for people like us. The scout uniform with its symbol, the lily, was something we took so seriously. As we got acquainted with our colleagues, it turned out that there was quite a brave group in our class. There was Volkovich of the partisans from Vilnius, who participated in liberating Vilnius and was captured and subsequently sent to Kaluga. There were 3 guys, participants in the Warsaw Uprising. Józef Piwko from the Kielce region, from the military group of Antoni Heda, codename Grey. Czeszek from Polesia, along with his brothers, attacked the prison in Pinsk in the 43rd year, liberating the prisoners.
Więzienie w Pińsku i uwalniał. Stargard był miejscem, gdzie
Stargard was a place where there was a major border crossing. Our mindset allowed us to look critically at the Russian troops stationed in Stargard. Being on the street was a conscious decision. We were aware of the risk of losing life or property. That's how it was. I myself witnessed 2 officers walking down the street in opposite directions, one Russian, the other Polish, and each had a gun in his hand, each looking to see how the other would react. Or there was when I saw a Polish captain wearing a cornet, full uniform. Russians approached him. One said something to him, and the other hit him in the face so hard his hat fell off. This I saw with my own eyes. With one hand, he reached for his hat, and with the other hand, for his gun in the holster. He shot the 2 on the spot. I myself almost got drowned by the Russians. It was already cold. It was dark. Here I was, being approached by 2 Russian officers. And with such a gesture, they said, "Get him. He wants to throw me over." In one motion, I ducked. They started shooting at me, and I threw myself to the ground.
to oni zaczęli strzelać do mnie, to ja gdzieś tam się rzuciłem na ziemię. My postanowili.
We decided to form an organization. An organization has been formed. Take a look at this. This is a guide to illegal anti-state organizations and armed gangs operating in People's Poland from 1944 to 1956. This was an official information pamphlet of the security service, where these gangs had already broken up. Our independence organizations, run by patriotic zealots, were so named by them that they were gangs. Pomeranian Battalion Youth Group Szczecin. The gang operated from 1945 to 1946 in the Szczecin and Olsztyn provinces. The gang consisted of the following groups: organizational, combat, intelligence, and special. The command was located in Stargard and was codenamed B-17. At its head was Czesław Hołub, alias Wildcat. The head of the command was Wacław Nowicki, alias Pan. We gave the oath to the captain who came to see us. The gang carried out attacks on the citizens' militia, the security office, and PPR members. One spy we killed. The organization possessed large quantities of weapons. We had a warehouse of explosives. We also performed under the name of Hołub's gang. Our head count was 50 people. It was decided we were going into hiding, to the forest. So we did. That was in February 1946. Our unit had 8 people. There were 2 light clashes with some Russian patrols. In the end, since we had slim chances to accomplish anything significant, the decision was made that we disband. And Wojtek approached me on that train as we were traveling. "Why do you need this FNK? Please give it to me. I have a place to hide it." And so I gave him back that FNK of mine. Later I went into hiding until the amnesty in 1947. In 1947, my brother returned from the West. I came out of the underground and began my life in communist Poland.
Zachodu ujawniłem się i zaczęło się życie w PRL-u. Co to znaczy być patriotą? Pracować nad sobą samym.
What does it mean to be a patriot? Work on self-improvement and do not expect anything from others. Try to do everything right, even the most minor thing. It's not about words. I guess actions are the most important. Leave the big words to the politicians. Instead, always try to be reasonably helpful to others. Don't be selfish. Don't be an egoist.
Young, free, idealistic. Thanks to them, we live in Poland, in a free Poland, out of gratitude for Poland. Subsidized by the Polish National Foundation.